So I'm here in the visitor center of the Jefferson County Park in Fairfield, Iowa. And this is Austin. And what is your title? Like the leader of the group?
The naturalist.
The naturalist, yeah, he told me that. So he's gonna be showing us a slideshow. And it's really cozy in here. It's really nice. I was just explaining to them how I'm an earth lover. Now, we have some owls up here. These are taxidermy animals, right? I'm gonna assume they're what kind of owls? Do you know about them?
Those are barred owls.
Austin says these are barred owls, the naturalist here. And this is a swan. What is it?
That's a trumpeter swan.
A trumpeter swan. That's the biggest bird in here, and it's white. You know, rare birds I was talking about in my intro. And what kind of birds do we have behind? Mallards.
I don't know. I don't know where that's at. What is the sign there? Yeah, there's
The writing is so small, I can't read it. Okay. What is this thing? A badger? And over here we have a porcupine. I think I remember my daughter Mayella when she was little. She told me she liked porcupines. She wanted a little pet porcupine. That's funny. I love my daughter. A bison. American bison. I can't read what that is. An elk. This is an elk. An American bison and an elk.
She was hoping to catch up to me on a Colorado trip, and she was like, no.
A bufflehead
Not even close.
and a snow goose.
And I go to Duluth this weekend, so hopefully I zoom even further ahead. Morning, guys.
Birds of the garden.
It's fair as the first Monday of the month, but
Yeah.
I'm actually not gonna get it, yeah, because I don't, not get
The pointy head one is a cardinal.
Good.
This is a woodpecker.
Okay.
That's some good art.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine.
As an artist, I thought how to make practical use of my
So they put the native
art would be scientific art, and this is kind of what that is like. It's for educational purposes.
So that's where, yeah, I picked up that.
Here we have rocks.
Yeah, so if you put it on there, you'd get more.
North American predators: wolf, coyote, cougar, fox, bobcat. This looks like some kind of dinosaur footprint. It's not labeled.
I don't get it either. Yeah, where it's going, cyberspace. Floating around.
This is a red-tailed hawk. And they're real animals.
What are we doing? Raptors.
Raptors. Yep. I was hoping to put them
Oh, an otter. I love otters. I watch otter videos just like I watch cat videos.
Depends where they're leaving from, I guess.
I've seen eagles flying down Cedar Creek.
Canvas
Yeah.
back.
In the water.
Yeah.
And then up
Green-winged teal.
Walton Lake.
Yeah. At Widowwoods this year, I saw an osprey, which was kind of cool.
Oh.
That was
This, just like he said the word osprey, this is an osprey. I've never heard of that word
Yeah, he
before.
was fishing. He would fly off the trees and it'd go down in the water. And then,
Osprey.
Widom was just that one pond in the front.
I love river otters.
Oh, and
Any kind of otter. Cuties.
Yeah, I forgot about that one.
Butterflies and moths.
Yeah.
A lot of those where I live. While we're here on the subject of butterflies, if you see a butterfly in real life outside, it's actually an indicator of good ecosystem. And that's a stick bug.
Oh, good.
Those are everywhere here.
Did you get some books then?
They're completely harmless and they don't really stink. This looks like a little bear. It's not labeled, so it must be obvious it's a little bear. We got some animal fur here. Feels really nice, really nice. Very nice carpet rug.
Yeah. I should get them to come for Bernie first.
I don't know what kind of fur that is. I'm gonna assume it's elk and
Oh, yeah.
bison fur. Yeah, wow, bison fur feels really good. This isn't an elk. This looks like it's it's smoother and silkier. It looks like it's an otter maybe.
Yeah.
A male deer,
Well, maybe they'd be a little big. Well,
a female deer. Doe, a deer, a female deer.
no, they're off for some reason. They're off
The male deer has the horns.
just for fun, I guess.
See, this is another male deer. That's how you know if they're male or female. The males have the horns and the female doesn't.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure. I'm just saying by observation. Now we have a snake and a black bear skull. Copperhead snake. Endangered.
Saturday, I was sitting by a stream up in the Butte.
Flying squirrel.
Runners to go by, and there was a kingfisher kept going back and forth.
Bison skull.
It almost, like, it flew past me.
These are bird eggs.
It almost hit me.
Let me try to get a better.
I thought, man, if it hits me with that big sharp beak, that's gonna hurt. I don't know what the fish feel.
The spotty egg is a red-tailed hawk.
It was a little stream.
This is a great horned owl egg.
On the river, but it was more. It was at their
This is a blue jay egg. Cardinal egg. Bluebird, finch,
park. They have a nice.
a wren, and a hummingbird egg.
Pretty cool. I didn't get to go in the nature center, but the trails were beautiful.
Where is it?
Butte.
Where at?
That's a good question. It's like to the
This albino deer
yeah.
was born and lived in Jefferson County
Oh, cool. Yeah, it was.
in the late 1980s.
It's kind of out of town a little bit. It's by Dubuque County Conservation. That's where their nature center and everything is. Yeah, it was.
Near Heritage Trail.
It's extremely disrespectful for them to know that I'm filming a
They
video.
have a bunch of trails through there.
I can't believe how disrespectful so many
But,
people.
yeah,
No
I
respect.
saw a bunch of
Humans have no effing respect at all these days. It's beyond ridiculous. Anyway,
I guess we're not gonna have tourists today.
What's that?
I guess we're not gonna have tourists today. She's probably still, worn out from Colorado trip, so. Yeah, we'll go ahead and get started. So, welcome again to the Birdie Bunch. We're gonna talk about raptors today. I know last month.
bobcat like this was actually
October
in my
is,
backyard in California.
raptor migration month. This is like
They're desert animals.
raptor migration. When I was at Swiss Valley actually this weekend, the valley is down between two bluffs, and it was amazing watching all of the raptors just flying over. Tons of turkey vultures, and I think there was rattlesnakes.
This guy's on the Chronicles of Narnia.
There was a small, it looked like a falcon, but I can't remember. It was couldn't quite tell if it was a Merlin or if it was a peregrine. They're pretty different in size, but it was with the height.
Coyote.
But anyway, we'll go ahead and jump in. For news, all that I had is that Project Feeder Watch is starting on November 1st. It's run by Cornell Lab and Birds Canada. You can sign up for Feeder Watch. I think you have to donate to officially participate. It's like a $15 donation, and then they send you like their worksheet that they want you to fill out, all the standard rules that they have. And then you can get these really cool posters too. So I actually requested this poster, and they give you a little calendar, which is on my office door. This has the feeder birds of the west and on the back, or east, and on the back it has the west. And then they also sent, which I didn't know I was getting this one. I was hoping Teresa would be here to see this. It's just the sparrows, which I think is super cool.
Wow.
So I need to find a place to hang these. But they'll send you those posters with your registration.
I always do it, yeah.
Yeah, super cool.
Okay.
And it runs from November 1st to April 30th. All you have to do is sit by your feeder and count the birds. They have some different rules that I don't know if I like the rules all that much, but yeah, you can only count the number of each species that you see at the feeder at the same time. So if you see a male cardinal and it flies away, and then you see a female cardinal, that's still only one cardinal, which I think is weird because you can tell those are different. But that's the thing.
Yeah, I think last year I tried to do it and I couldn't perform to.
Yeah.
You know, and I had so many, just
Yeah,
constantly, you know, there's no, it's not like
So
I can.
I'm doing it here at the Nature Center, at that feeder. What's really weird is I haven't seen a lot of birds at that feeder already this year, even though I've been filling it
Just
for
on that
about
hatch,
a month
but
or
other
two.
than
So.
that.
Yeah, there's been a few kind of off and on. But I
This is the
haven't
feeder
seen
he's talking
the
about.
Normal like congregation like we usually have.
Maybe because it's still warm outside.
It could be. It could be.
They know where you're at.
Yeah.
I had a lot of mass, I mean, my oaks and my hickories both this
Yeah,
year.
yeah.
I mean, I can
And that
barely
could be
walk
part
over
of
there,
it
so,
too.
yeah.
Yeah, there's just a lot
Oh,
of.
speaking of the weather, I felt like it was gonna rain earlier this morning. I don't know if any of you guys felt like the rain was coming on,
Yeah, it
but
looks like it.
I
It's
thought,
moved on. It's starting to break up when I was just outside.
oh, okay. Just curious though, if it does rain by any chance, what are we gonna do? We're gonna cancel the
I'll
class?
still go on a hike. I've got a rain jacket I'll throw on. And there's still.
We
be
won't
birds out.
cancel? We'll still go through with
Yep,
it?
yep.
Okay. But what about the birds though? I mean, we're here to watch the birds. Are the birds gonna still be around in the
They're
rain?
still out in the rain. They don't have houses to go hide in.
They
so
don't care about the rain?
Nope. They have to live with it. So they're still out looking for food or moving. The hawks won't migrate like they would be if it's raining, but
Their feathers are waterproof.
yep, for the most part, they'll get a little wet and you'll see them kind of shake up and they'll be kind of ratty looking, but they'll still be out there. All right, so raptors. We have 3 different families of raptors, and there's more, but I limited it to our hawks, eagles, and falcons. So we have the accipiters, Pandionidae would be the osprey, and then the Falconidae. This Accipitridea is accipiters and buteos. That's our traditional hawks. Pandionidae is the osprey, like I said, and Falconidae is our small falcons that we have here in Iowa. So we have 15 species possible in Iowa. I did take the vulture out for this because everybody knows what a turkey vulture is. And then the hawks are typically broken into these 3 groups, like I said. So without the falcons, there'd be the eagles, the buteos, and the accipiters. So our
I
eagles.
didn't know an eagle was a hawk.
An eagle, this is just kind of a fun graphic to show the outline. A lot of people, if you're doing like a hawk watch, an official hawk watch, they had one recently at High Trestles. They do some over in Review.
That's really
before,
interesting. I never
and
knew
then they
that.
have
It's
a
amazing
big hawk
fact.
watch tower up in Duluth. But if you're doing an official hawk watch, this is a graphic you're going to see because this is the view that you're going to have of those birds as they're migrating. So our eagles are going to be obviously really big, and when they fly,
They're pretty
you can
similar.
see their wings are pretty flat. where the vulture is gonna have kind of this V shape with their wings. The osprey has a really distinct wing shape. And then our budios, what separates a budio from an accipiter is gonna be this tail shape. The budio has kind of this rounded tail on the end, so that's gonna be our red-tailed hawk, and some of the others we're gonna get to here in a little bit. The accipiters have this long, it's pretty straight and narrow tail when they're flying. They have a similar size tail as other hawks, but when they fly, they just fold it up. And that's not necessarily like 100%. Occasionally, if an accipiter is turning, they'll flare out their tail, or if a budio, I don't know why, but sometimes they fold up their tail. And then the falcons also have this pretty standard shape when they're in flight, and they're relatively small compared to all of our other hawks.
Is there a common name for an accipiter? Because not familiar with that word.
Yep, we'll get into
What they are.
a common name here in a little bit. Yep.
15 species of birds in Iowa.
So the first one, I tried to keep it in taxonomic order again. So what we're going to start with here is the northern harrier. The northern harrier would be an example of an accipiter. So it's a hawk, but they're broken into accipiter and budio. So it flies with that tail pretty much straight back instead of flared out like the red-tailed hawk. Northern harriers are pretty special to Iowa. They're listed on our endangered species list. They are a low-flying prairie. That's where you're usually going to see them, nice open areas. They nest on the ground. They are prairie specific. That's why they're having so much trouble here in Iowa now. In Kansas, when I was going to school down there, the harriers were everywhere. It was cool. You could find them on fence posts like this, or just flying over the prairies. It was pretty neat. They do have this gray or sometimes this brown plumage, but a thing that you want to look for, because you're going to see them flying low over the ground, is this white patch over their rump. That's going to be something a little distinct. They do look really similar to owls, especially when they're perched. They just have a large, flat face, so they look a little bit like owls.
Can I ask a question?
That's how I got using that home and then.
Yeah. Yeah, what was your question?
Well, I have a couple questions. As I explained to you, I just graduated as an environmental scientist, and one thing during my 4 years coursework getting that degree, I was particularly interested in was the endangered species.
Yep.
And the general primary reason we have endangered species now is the climate change, and because of climate change, the deterioration of their environments and pollution and et cetera like that. But my question for you, do you happen to know anything about why these are endangered? And endangered in Iowa, are they endangered in other states?
They're not endangered nationally, it's just an Iowa specific.
Oh.
Yeah, so each state has their own endangered species list as well.
So they
That's the
can
federal one.
fly over to another state and not be endangered?
Well, that just means they're not very common here. So they're supposed to be common here, but because of habitat loss, a lot
That
of
was
our
it,
prairies
yeah.
have been turned into ag fields, or fire suppression occurred, and so we've got a lot more woodlands now than we used to. So they just don't have as much nesting habitat. Like I said, in Kansas, they're really common. They're not on the Kansas endangered species list.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that pretty much answers my question. Thank you.
Yep.
Can you crack a window? I can't figure out, oh, you let open at the top and the bottom. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
All right, next is our osprey. This is the only species in that Pandiante. They have that long, if I go back to that graphic, they're the only raptor in flight that's going to have this really long wings with this M shape. So if you see that in flight, it's going to be an osprey. A lot of people will mistake them for eagles, because in flight they do look a little bit like an immature eagle with that kind of patchy black and white feathering.
I think it's the curved beak that makes people associate with the hawk or eagle.
That's pretty common all of these raptors really.
Raptors.
And these guys are usually found in near water, which is another reason with eagles. These guys are going to be fishing, and there will be eagles right next to them. So, the osprey over there is a
Hawk
really
is a
good example if
raptor.
anybody wants to get a really good up close look at what they look like. All right, Mississippi kite. This is a super fun Iowa species. There's only a few known breeding sites in Iowa. They used to be fairly common, but now there's only a couple breeding sites left. So there's one in Ottumwa. If you got a chance this summer to go see, they were there. It was kind of at the end of the summer when everybody found them finally. But at Memorial Park on the north side of Ottumwa, they have a nesting site that they return to every year. And then there's another nesting site in Des Moines, and actually this year there was a pair reported over in Burlington. So I don't know if that's gonna end up being a new third site or if it was just a weird thing. Their range is expanding, that's good. That's good news. They would have traditionally been a little more south, maybe a few up here, and now their range is going further and further north, which is awesome.
We saw them, was it last year? They were in the Ottumwa Cemetery.
Yeah,
Some
yeah.
years, yeah.
Yep, they've been
Maybe.
nesting in Ottumwa for
Yeah.
years. I don't even know how long actually.
But they don't nest the same place every time?
It's not the exact same tree, but it's kind of the
Near.
same general
Okay.
location. Yeah, because sometimes they nest in that cemetery just across the road from the park. Sometimes they're in the park.
Okay.
This year they were in the park, which is why it was so hard to find them. It was really dense in the area where they were. But yeah, their range is expanding further north and further west, which is kind of neat. They're one of the most graceful flyers you're gonna see because they do all of their hunting and everything in flight. They eat dragonflies and other flying insects, but typically just dragonflies. And so they're flying around trying to catch those awesome flying dragons. Those things can fly backwards and forwards and side to side. They can change direction super quickly, so they have to be really good flyers. And they'll catch them and they'll actually flip their feet up and eat them all while in flight. They don't necessarily stop to eat, which is pretty cool. Yeah, beautiful bird. I don't have it on here. There's also another kite in the United States called the swallowtail kite, whose range is also kind of expanding. It's becoming more and more common outside of its range. And this year there was a swallowtail kite just south of Des Moines that hung around for 3 weeks, I think, and I actually got to go see it. I didn't get pictures of it. It was way too high and it was flying way too fast. But it was beautiful. They're white with just black on the tips of their wings and on their tail, but the rest of their body is white. That was a beautiful bird, and I was so glad to see it. And I should say the Mississippi kite, the osprey, northern harrier are all going to move south for the winter. Our next hawk, raptor, is going to be the sharp-shinned hawk. This is our smallest exhibitor. They're only about this big. They're tiny. They have a small, rounded head and a short tail. Those are going to be important markings to remember for the next bird. And they're typically here in the winter, only in the non-breeding season. So they should be moving back in. Sometimes we'll get them. We'll see them in the summer. And sometimes that summertime reports can just be misreporting, I guess, of the next species, which is the Cooper's hawk. So the Cooper's hawk and the sharp-shinned hawk look almost identical, except the sharp-shinned, like I said, is only this big, and the Cooper's is going to be slightly larger. And the Cooper's is going to be here during the breeding season as well. What's really interesting about these two is they're an example of convergent evolution. So they are not closely related at all genetically. They're pretty far apart genetically, but morphologically they look, which means how they look extremely similar. So that evolution of their feathers and whatever, how they look has just made them look really similar, even though they're not related. So like it says on these slides, they're basically a large version of the sharp-shinned hawk. Their head is a little bit more square-shaped. They're present year-round, and their tail is longer with a rounded edge. So when we did our Iowa Young Birders field trip out here this past summer, no, I guess it was late spring, we had a sharp-shinned hawk fly over, and Tyler, the executive director of Iowa Young Birders, and myself were able to identify it because of that square tail. You can see here those tail feathers end in a nice blunt square shape. And on the sharp-shinned hawk, or the Cooper's hawk, sorry, it'll be more rounded at the end. So that's something, if you see them perched or even in flight, that's going to be something to look for.
I have a question on those two.
Yeah.
I see them, and I'm pretty sure they're Cooper's hawks, you know, in the winter after my bird feeders all
Yeah.
the time. But my feeders I had on my deck this summer, I didn't have see any of that, but
Oh,
why
interesting.
it makes, I'm wondering if that was, so the sharp shin's only here in the
The
winter.
sharp-shin's only here in the winter, and both of these hawks are pretty typical feeder hawks. They will watch the birds at the feeders
Well,
and
I
they'll
wondered
chase
if it
them.
was just more the plentiful, more birds in the
Yep.
summer, you know, young ones and whatever. you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
feathers and-
Can I just say,
Yeah, go ahead.
I was sitting in my living room looking out the window at the snow, and Cooper's hawk was eating some kind of bird,
Oh, yeah.
just pulling the flesh off of it on the tree just outside the window.
Yep.
And I didn't get a very good picture of it, but because of the snow and the lighting, it was too dark and my phone wasn't that great.
Yeah.
The one thing I could see from the picture was that cap. It
Oh,
has this
yeah.
black cap that kind of goes to point in the back, which is like the Iowa Hawkeyes
Yep.
icon has that cap that goes back.
Yeah.
And that's how I identified it.
So what's fun about the Hawkeye logo is it's, I don't have this hawk that it's represented, or that's representative of on the slide. It's supposed to be a gyrfalcon.
What?
A gyrfalcon, which is a more northern species. They'll come down to Iowa occasionally, but they're not common in Iowa at
So
all.
the Iowa Hawkeye is not a Cooper's hawk.
No, it does look like a Cooper's hawk, though.
Okay.
That is interesting. It does look
That cap
quite a
on the
bit
head
like it, yeah.
is what I saw. Because I looked at all the different hawks, and that's the only one I noticed that had that cap.
Yeah. So
I
that
have a
is another
question.
marking to look for. The sharp-shinned hawk's cap is actually going to end right about here, and then it'll have like a lighter gray.
But the Cooper's hawk goes straight back like the.
Yep,
point
it
to the
goes all
back.
the way back to
Yeah.
its back. Yep. That's a good thing to know. Yeah.
So I have a question. I'm sure you would know as what you do in your role and everything. It's similar to what I've learned in my environmental studies. But my question is, can you remind me of the? It's like the genetic classification, family, order, genus, species. Do you know what that is? Like the orders?
The order of it?
Yeah, because I'm trying to understand hawks. Before I came here, I thought that a hawk was just one type of a bird, but I'm learning that hawk is more like a genus.
Yeah, a hawk
Is
would-
it a species?
A hawk is like a general classification of it. So
So,
the genus and
do-
species would be like.
Would a hawk be the genus and the species be all the
No,
different
no,
kinds of hawks?
A hawk is just a group that people have thrown them into.
But but what word of that family, of that order, of that tree, of the
So that would be where you get into this.
is a hawk? Do you
So
know?
the families would be these three here. And then genus and species is going to be different for all of these that we've talked about so far.
Yeah, I don't think we have the flow chart in our.
Yeah, I don't. I try to keep it pretty simple. I don't go into that
There's like
genetic,
a diagram,
Well,
you
the
know,
scientific names.
But-
like a family tree kind of diagram that we don't
Yeah,
have.
yeah.
I'm trying to understand. You said that one of the birds
Mhm.
is a totally different genetic makeup than one
Yeah.
of the other birds. However, they're both the same species.
No, not the same species. They just look similar.
Oh, they're not. They're
None of these birds are going to be the same. These are all different species of birds. That's
Like-
why they have a different name.
like humans, they're the same species, Homo
Yeah.
sapiens, but you and me and each humans are individuals and they might have very different genetics,
Yeah,
even though they're in the
all
same
gonna have,
species.
yeah, they're all gonna have different genetics, but those genetics are gonna, there's relatedness in that genetics. So these two,
Is a hawk a species?
a hawk is not a species, it's a group of species. So all of these species we've talked about so far can be put into that group of hawks.
Is bird a species?
Bird is a very, very general classification.
Would raptor be the species?
Nope, that's just another kind of general group. So even the owls would be in the raptor group.
Owls are in the raptor group.
Yep.
So it's just called group on this
Yeah,
genetic tree?
It's not on that genetic tree. These are all just like common, just like general. They're not a scientific grouping. They're just a general, like, if I was talking to somebody on the street, they might understand what a raptor
You need to
was.
show her that diagram that shows the different categories and how they're
Yeah, I'll have to look
It's
that
very
up at the
complicated.
end, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a visual learner. If you have something like that, I'd love to see it.
Yeah, I can look one of those up at the end. All right, so our next one, we're getting into our first bootios now. So the red-shouldered hawk is going to be our first bootio. They should be back by now. When I wrote this PowerPoint, they were just moving back, but they should be back in the Fairfield, Iowa area and moving further south now. They have a nice red front. You can kind of see its breast here. It's kind of this reddish brown with that same color on their shoulder. That's how they get that name, red-shouldered hawk. They're very similar to the sharp-shinned hawk and the Cooper's hawk on the front. So if I go back, you see how this one's red on the front. The Cooper's hawk is going to have that same reddish wash on its front. Oops. And the red-shouldered is going to be like that without kind of that white speckling. Which does depend regionally what they look like, because there is a special, like out west in California, there's a red-shouldered hawk that looks very different from the other red-shouldered hawks.
So they don't nest here, they're more north, and then they come here in the winter more, is that what?
Yeah, so red-shouldered hawk is gonna nest further north, like Minnesota, southern Canada, kind of, in those boreal forests, and then they'll come back down here in
I
the winter.
keep hearing them, and everyone, I've checked it many times at
Yeah.
my house, and it always pulls up. as
So,
red.
what's-
However, I've had a blue jay that I've
Yes, that's
seen
what I was
it,
gonna
and
say.
I've seen the blue jay open his mouth and that
If
come
you're,
out, so
if you're
that
hearing a
is-
red-shouldered hawk in the summer, it's probably a blue jay
Okay,
imitating
okay.
that. They are very good mimics of red-shouldered and
Yeah.
red-tailed hawks. What's going to be a really good distinguisher of this species, besides the red shoulder and the much smaller bootio size, is going to be this dark banded tail. If you see them perched on a fence post or in a tree, it's going to be that dark banded tail. And this species is, they kind of like more open foraging areas, so that's why they're more commonly found along roadsides and the edges of the woodland, which is going to separate them from the next species. I'm glad I know which order these are in. So the broad-winged hawk is going to be another small bootio. Roughly, there's a little bit of overlap in size between the broad-winged and the red-shouldered, but they're going to be slightly larger. They're going to be in between that red-shouldered and the red-tailed. They have a little bit of a wash on their chest, but typically they're a lot lighter as well. So, like I said, this one, the broad-winged, is going to be found more interior on your woodlands than on the edges, like the red-shouldered. The broad-winged is really well known for grouping up during migration, and you can just see these giant flocks of them. So when I was at Swiss Valley this weekend, I did see some broadwings in that group. When I worked in Wisconsin and we did our raptor count, or our hawk watch counts on the bluffs along the Mississippi, we would see hundreds of these at a time. They just get in these big groups and they swirl in those, that's called a kettle when they're swirling. And they ride those thermals all the way down to South America where they'll winter. So the broad wings will occasionally stop in like Texas and Southern California as well. Their wings are more pale with a dark border, and they have one thick white band across their open tail. So you can't see that in this picture, but where the red shoulder has multiple bands, the broad wing is going to have a dark band, and a white band. Swainson's hawk. Therese got a Swainson's hawk this year, and I haven't yet. They are pretty uncommon, but they're occasionally seen in southeast Iowa on migration. They're more typical west. Actually, when I went to South Dakota this year, I was hoping to see a Swainson's hawk because they're pretty common there. Was not able to see one. They have really long wings. They're a little more slender than a red-tailed hawk, which all those markings are both going to be hard to tell if you're just seeing one individual hawk.
The wings are more slender than the.
Yeah, their wings are going to be more slender than a red tail, with more pointed tips. Those are going to be really, really hard to tell unless you're seeing a red tail right next to it. Like I said, they're pretty uncommon in southeast Iowa, but they do occur during migration. Therese saw one fly over Fairfield, so. And they typically have this darker face and a little bit more on their breast than a red tail. I don't know if my red tail is next or if there's I don't think I put the foolishness in here. Yeah, red tail. So, dark face, a little bit more dark on the chest. And the red tail, they do have a dark face, but they usually have a little bit of white somewhere on their face, unless you're looking at a Harlan's. The fun thing about red-tailed hawks is there's a lot of subspecies. The Harlan's is going to be like dark, like all black, beautiful. I've never seen one, but I wish I could. But for the most part, the red tails are going to have a little bit of white on their face. They're going to have this white patch on their chest, and then they're known for a breastband, is what they call it, of dark feathers. So that is going to vary quite a bit between individuals. It's not always going to be as dark as the one in the picture. But if you're seeing a breastband on a hawk like that, it's going to probably be a red tail. They do have this dark mark. This is another thing to look for. Every subspecies, well, obviously the Harlan's is going to have this because they're dark all the way through. But they're going to have this darker mark on their leading edge of their wing. The Kreiders.
Behind your shoulder.
Yeah, right. The Kreider subspecies is very white, like very white. This breastband is almost not visible at all on the Kreiders. And their dark band, dark band here on this wing is not going to be quite as dark, but it is going to be present. So that's how you can tell it's a red tail. And like I said at the bottom, their tail is not always red. You can see here, you can see that red wash through their tail. Usually if they turn just right in the sun, you can kind of see that. But if it's a juvenile, they're going to have more of a banded tail, kind of like the red-shouldered hawk. So timing is going to be part of that. And then looking for these other marks like the breastband and the dark mark on the wings. These guys are a lot larger than a red-shouldered as well. And the red-shouldered is noticeably smaller.
Is the red-tailed hawk the most common in our area? Because
Yes.
That's what I thought.
Yep.
If you're gonna have to guess, it's probably,
Yeah, if you're not sure, it's a pretty safe bet to say it's a red tail.
Okay.
Yeah. In Kansas, we called them Kansas mile markers because it was like every mile you're seeing a red tail
along the highway, because they're perched on something.
Yep, they perch along the roads. Yep, and they hunt mice in the shoulders and yep.
Yeah, I see them along the 218 to Iowa City.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Perched along, or used to, I haven't been paying attention lately.
Oh, I'm sure you'll still see them up there. And they're here year round. It might not always be the same individuals here year round, and some might move a little further, and then the ones from north might come down. But you're going to be able to see red-tailed hawks year round.
Yeah, now, would they nest like in timbers or were they edges?
I don't have specific information on that. I
Okay.
assume it's in the timber
Yeah.
and less on the edge.
Okay.
But I didn't see that specifically noted anywhere, so that's
I
a
had
good
a
question.
pair of nests I could watch from my dad years ago,
Yeah.
through the winter, and I assumed that's all I knew, was, but
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
a little ways into my timber, so.
The next question brings up a good, I'm gonna go back to the osprey. Ospreys will actually, part of their conservation effort has been, people will build osprey platforms
Yeah.
out at wetlands or lakes. So at Lake Darling, in the summer, there's usually ospreys out there. And I'm pretty sure they have a built platform. If not, they have lots of dead trees they like to nest in too.
Yeah, we saw a lot of that in
Yeah.
Michigan and Minnesota.
Oh, yeah, I bet. And, what's the name of the wetland? In Ottumwa, there's a wetlands just south of JBS and John Deere.
Oh,
I
yeah.
can't think of the name of that wetland now. But there is a platform for the ospreys out at that wetland as well. I don't think they've used it in a long time, but it's there.
So the snakes like to eat the bird eggs, and that's one reason for endangerment of bird species especially. And they're referred to as, because you mentioned earlier, I just couldn't get this off my mind this whole entire time since I asked you about the question about the endangerment. You mentioned the reason for the endangerment was habitat loss, and I do have more questions about that, but right now we'll stay on this topic of the snakes. That's another reason besides habitat loss for endangerment. They're considered predators. So in certain areas, especially, we understand in America, especially traveling in different states in America, we have different kinds of animals in different areas. And I noticed, I've only lived here in Iowa for maybe 3 years, but there are definitely, specific animals to this area, and there are a lot of snakes. So how would a certain bird that would be included in today's discussion be more vulnerable to these predators eating their eggs compared with another bird that is not threatened by the snakes eating their eggs? Do the eggs taste different or smell different to the snakes?
I would say snakes are not driving any kind of endangerment.
They're not predators to eating
They
the
are
eggs?
going to be predators, but they're not going to be probably a main contributing factor. They're contributing a little bit, but they're not going to be a main contributing factor to a species endangerment. Like the raptors we're talking about today are probably going to eat the snakes. If they see them in the nest, they're going to eat them.
Oh, you think the birds are the predators to the snakes,
These
not the
ones
snakes,
definitely
the
are.
predators to the
Yeah.
bird eggs?
Yeah, these ones definitely are. Now, if it's a bluebird,
Yeah.
snakes can be pretty detrimental to a bluebird.
So yeah, I guess
nesting.
that was my question, and that answers my question that snakes are more privy to different kinds of eggs.
Yeah, they'll find and they'll eat bird eggs, but they're not probably a main contributing
But
factor at all.
they might like a bluebird egg compared with, a hawk egg.
Yeah,
The taste of it or
I
something?
don't know if it'd be taste. It's
The
just
size
the,
of
It's
it?
just the
Parents come
availability.
home or not.
They're looking for an easy meal. So if they happen to come across one, that's what they're gonna eat. But they're not out seeking eggs specifically. But yeah, they will eat bird eggs occasionally. All right. Oh, this is my favorite hawk. So the rough-legged hawk. This is going to be a winter resident here in Iowa. They should be coming back soon, and I'm looking forward to it because I still need one on my list. They're going to have very long, broad wings, and they're going to be really white. So this is almost what a Kreider's red-tailed hawk is going to look like, except the Kreider's is going to maybe have a little bit of a red wash on their tail, and probably not as much dark spots
So
on
the
it.
size is comparable.
Yeah, the size is gonna be almost exactly the same. The rough-legged might be slightly larger, but there's gonna be a huge overlap between these two species. What's really fun about the rough-legged hawks is when they're perched, you can see their feathered legs. And I described this to Therese last year, is that they wear snow pants because they're here in winter, so they have their snow pants on. What is gonna be pretty distinct in these, the red tail, remember, had that dark patch on the leading edge, but the rough-legged is gonna have this dark patch in what would be called like their wrist area, which is not, obviously birds don't have wrists. But this is where, if they had like a hand at the end of their wing, that's where their wrist would be. And then they're also gonna have this wide dark band at the end of their tail. So if you're seeing something that you are thinking maybe is a Crider's subspecies of a red-tailed hawk, but you see that dark band, it's probably a rough-legged. Yeah, this is my favorite hawk species. I just love how they look and perch up on the wires just like a red tail. They're just beautiful. And they're hard to find. They're not super common in Iowa.
So
yeah.
what other things do hawks eat besides snakes? What's their main diet?
Pretty much anything. They'll eat birds, they eat rabbits, mice, squirrels, chipmunks, cats, small dogs, fish, grasshoppers.
They
Yeah,
eat
grasshoppers.
dogs?
Like an eagle might eat a small dog or something. Yeah.
What about a cat?
Oh yeah, they'll eat cats.
Anything, huh?
Yep, anything they can
Do
grab.
they eat, so they eat reptiles because they eat snakes,
Mhm.
mice,
Lizards,
oh
if they're
wow.
lizards, frogs, anything they can get.
What about insects like
Yep, the
Like
kite, remember, eats dragonflies.
spiders,
Um,
moths?
Probably leaving alone most of the spiders and moths, they're just too small. These are fairly large birds, so they want something big. But the kite does eat dragonflies.
Do
so-
they eat anything other than meat? Like, you know, deers and bunnies eat grass.
Yeah, they're not gonna eat it. They're raptors, so they're only
They're
gonna
not
eat-
mammals.
Yeah, they're only gonna eat something that is like protein. Yeah, they're not gonna eat like grass or anything like
They're
that.
not vegetarians.
Nope. All right, getting into our eagles. Starting with the uncommon eagle in Iowa, the golden eagle. Again, if you're up in the Northeast, you might see a golden eagle. They are common in Wisconsin, Minnesota, that area. Actually, when I was working in Wisconsin, we found a nesting area of golden eagles, which was really cool. But like I said, uncommon in southern Iowa, up north maybe. Occasionally we'll see them down here. If it gets cold enough up north, they'll push down just to find more food. So they have no white markings on them at all, unlike the juvenile bald eagles, which we'll get to next. The juvenile bald eagles are going to have some white splotching somewhere. Even though they do have a dark phase early in their life, they're going to have some white splotches somewhere. And they have, this picture is really good at showing this. They have this golden nape. That's what makes them the golden eagle. They're not gold all over their body, but it's just on their neck, which in flight is going to be really hard to tell. They are a little bit bigger bird than the bald eagle. But another thing to note is that they do have a smaller beak. So a bald eagle, I'm sure everybody's seen a bald eagle before. They have this giant, massive beak on the front of their face. And the golden eagle it's still a big beak, but it's small compared to their head. It's noticeably different than the bald eagle's beak. Their tail, you can't see it here, is going to have a dark band on it. Their arms on the underside of their wings, again, remember that, is going to be dark. And they soar with a slight, so this is when they soar with their wings up, that's called dihedral. And the bald eagle flies with it pretty flat. The golden eagle is going to have it just slightly up. It's not going to be as pronounced as a turkey vulture where it looks like a V.
Well, vultures wobble more too.
Yeah,
don't they?
yeah,
That's why,
yeah, and they'll soar. The golden eagle is probably going to flap a little bit more than a turkey vulture as well. Bald eagle. So this would be like a pretty typical dark phase of an eagle. a bald eagle. So the golden eagle is not gonna have any of this white splotching on it. The adults of the bald eagle are obviously very distinct. They're our national bird. I would argue maybe they're not the best representation, but I like a lot of other raptors.
Ben Franklin thing,
Yeah, well, he wanted the turkey.
yeah.
Actually, the bald eagles you can kind of age based on the amount of modeling in their plumage. So this eagle is probably 2 years old. A first-year eagle is going to be really dark, hardly any white splotching. In year 2, they're going to get more splotching like this. In year 3, you're going to start to see a little bit more white on the head and a little less throughout the body. And then by year 4 and 5, they are going to look like this. So it takes them at least 4 years to get that bald head. They're obviously not bald, they have feathers. They're just called that because they're white.
So how long do they live then?
What's that?
How long do they live?
That's a good question.
It takes them, so they're 5 to be like
Yeah,
a-
if you're seeing this, they're at least 4 or 5.
Yeah.
I am not sure the max lifespan. I have heard of eagles being up to 12 years old, which is pretty good for a large raptor. It takes a lot of food to fuel their large body and all the flight that they do. So 12 years is pretty good. I'll get back to you on that because there's got to be some research on their lifespan. These pictures are really hard to see that large beak, but you can kind of see it on this young eagle here. This beak is almost the same size as their head. Where on the golden eagle, their beak is much smaller than their head. This looks more like a hawk's beak than the big bulky beak of the bald eagles. And this says, and they have a large forehead too, which just seems insulting.
So
But
the young ones start dark, get white splotchy underneath,
Yep.
and then go back to body, and then goes back to.
yeah, it goes back to that. Why did they do that? I don't know. Yep.
So where I lived in California, it was Central California, and there was a zoo called CALM, and it's an acronym for California Living Museum. And, we called it a zoo because it's essentially what it is, but they had like bald eagles and stuff, like animals like these birds we're looking at, in cages at that zoo. Now, the different terrain in these areas comparably is strikingly different. It was a desert area, but these animals are here too. I'm going to assume they're all over America.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the
bald
national
eagle-
animal.
Yeah, the bald eagle is pretty well over the whole United States and Canada and into Mexico. And, yeah.
I think if we have questions about like what does this bald eagle like eat and their lifespan and things like that, would be great to be answered from a zoo that actually takes care of these animals. And I guess my question is, the zoo in not Iowa City but in Des Moines, do they have birds like that we're going over today?
They might have some birds. Not all zoos keep raptors or large birds. They will have, I know at Blank Park Zoo in Des Moines they have some birds, but I haven't been there since I was in like 4th grade, so I'm not sure if they have.
I went there once and I was
raptors
so excited to
Yeah.
see the flamingos, and when I got there they didn't have the flamingos.
Oh no. Yeah, so most zoos that are raising eagles are going to then release them. It's part of their rehab process. So the eagle, even though it's our national symbol, was once almost extinct. Sorry, did you have something?
Well, it says that, Google says that they lived in 25 years, and the oldest living one was 38 years.
Wow.
There you go.
Wow.
There you go. So 12 years was nowhere near that. All right. So yeah, the eagles were almost wiped out, and that was partially due, so we've talked about some of the factors contributing to extinctions and species becoming endangered. The reason these eagles were becoming endangered was due to DDT. It was being sprayed to eliminate insect pests like mosquitoes and ticks and that kind of stuff. And it was really good at doing it. It did its job really well. But that chemical ended up in the waterways where it got into fish, and then the eagles would eat those fish, and it would biomagnify. So as it went up in the food chain, the concentration of DDT got higher and higher. So if the fish are eating the insects, it's going to start to concentrate in the fish bodies, and then the eagles eat those fish, and it concentrates in the eagle bodies. And that could cause death, but it also caused weakness in their eggshells. So ospreys also had this problem, and peregrine falcons had this issue, where their eggshells, they weren't producing enough calcium to make nice, strong eggshells. And so when the eagles or ospreys or peregrines would go to incubate their eggs, they would, kind of squat down on them, and they would actually crush their eggs. And so DDT was banned, and rehabilitation efforts in zoos and creating nesting sites and other things helped them come back. So now here in Iowa, at one time it was like, I've heard my dad and my grandpa talk about, oh, you never see an eagle, except for maybe one in the winter. And now in Iowa, they are year-round residents. You can see them all year long along our waterways or crop fields. They do seem to nest a lot in the wooded areas around crop fields.
They used to say they would nest within 4 miles of a human, and that, my
Yeah.
gosh, they're nesting right on.
Yeah, now we
Not
had
a lot of
some,
options
they
now.
didn't nest here, but we had a pair this year. There's a dead tree behind our big cottonwood in the parking lot, and there was a couple that were like, it looked like they were checking it out, like they wanted to nest there.
There's a nest in Okoboji, and boats go right, I mean,
Yeah.
it's hanging over the lake, and boats and people are all around it.
Yeah.
Boats go right under it, so.
Yeah, so they don't care about people at all. No. And you can get on, Decorah has an eagle camera. They have a nest on a nest, or they have a camera on a nest. And you can actually watch those eagles go through that whole life cycle. They'll lay their eggs and grow up.
And do they keep coming back to that same nest?
Yep, so eagles are gonna return to the same nest every year, which is really neat. If you know locally Gay Chapman, she does every year eagle nest monitoring. So she drives around Jefferson County and a little bit into Wapello County, and she is given a map of known nest sites that she monitors all throughout the breeding season, which is really cool. I went with her one time, and it was really neat. And something she actually observed from some of the eagles that she's been monitoring is, and I think this is wild, they will move their nest. If they don't like where their nest is, if they haven't had success, if they failed one year or something, they'll actually move their nest. They'll take it stick by stick and move it to a different tree.
that's so cute.
It is wild.
At Jack Hens's place, he has an eagle's nest in his tree.
Yeah.
Well, the top of the tree fell down, and
Okay.
they rebuilt their nest lower than.
Oh, really? Oh, that's neat. Yeah. So that was something that I was like, no way are they doing that. She
Oh
said,
my
yeah, she would watch them fly off with the sticks.
That's a lot.
And then she found a new nest and moved it on her map.
It'd be easier than getting,
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
you
true,
know.
that's true.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
If you find a feather on the ground and you suspect, it's an eagle feather or some kind of rare bird,
Mhm.
and you pick up the feather and you're like, wow, this is a really interesting feather. It's really different. It's really gorgeous. But I heard that it might be connected something to the Native Americans. And if you're watching this video, don't be offended if you're Native American. I love you guys. But something about like the respect for them. There was a law that you can't take home certain bird feathers.
Yeah, so all birds, other than game birds, so the ones you can hunt, are protected under the Migratory Bird Treaty Act, which is a piece of legislation that's an agreement between Canada, the United States, and Mexico, that none of these birds are going to be hunted, essentially. So actually, if it's not a game bird, so if it's not a duck or a pheasant or a goose or something you can shoot, a dove, you actually can't own any of those feathers technically. They're all protected. And
So yeah, I mean, I was sitting at the park the other day and I picked up a feather.
Yeah.
I didn't take it home, but I thought it could have been an eagle feather.
it was probably a turkey vulture feather. We get a lot of turkey vulture feathers in this park. But yeah, so the bald eagle actually has even more protections other than just the migratory bird tree act. That's a really long, hard to say.
So it is
Um,
illegal to take home any feathers that could possibly be protected legally?
Yeah, if it's not something you know you can hunt, I wouldn't take it home. But the bald eagles, so I got a report 2 weeks ago, I think, of a dead bald, it might have been last week, of a dead bald eagle on the side of the road. And I actually have to call those to the DNR, and there's special, they either have to be buried or burned, or they go to a feather repository somewhere in the middle of the United States, where those feathers can be used by Native American tribes. They're used for headdresses and ceremonial garb.
Yeah, I actually bought some turkey feathers from the local Native American gem store. And they were like dyed like orange color. Just for, you know, a Thanksgiving decoration.
Sure.
But,
What did you do with the eagle that you found?
I called Dan Henderson, our local conservation officer, and I sent him a text. And I don't know if he went and got it or not.
Is
I
it
didn't-
part of
I didn't
Jefferson
hear back.
County Conservation? The guy
We're-
that you called?
We're still, yeah, so it was Gay Chapman actually who called me. She wasn't sure if we were allowed, if we had permits to have them. And we don't. It's a pretty strict
So, I mean, the person
process.
that you called, how is he related to,
He works for the DNR, so the state level.
so is a state guy who
Yeah,
took care of the situation?
Yeah, and I don't know if he went and got it or not, but,
Okay, I was just curious as far as like the hierarchy of command here.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the DNR they're allowed to transport and like move them, but they still either bury them or burn them, or they dispose of them in some way, yeah.
so how do the taxidermy people, get over like some
So,
legal loophole?
all the birds, everything in here, we have permits to own.
Permit.
Because these are for education purposes, so we're allowed to get a permit through the DNR and the US Forest Service and USDA. And
What's
all those
DNR stand for?
things. Department of Natural Resources,
Okay.
yeah.
Is that on a state level or?
That's a
federal?
state level,
Okay.
yeah. And so we have permits to have these, so we have a collector permit, so if I find a dead bird in the park, I can pick it up and I can take it to a taxidermist. And a good taxidermist is gonna check that you have that permit before they send it off somewhere, because
Oh,
if they
okay.
get caught with it, they get fined federally as well.
Okay.
So, and each bird is a $10,000 or 10 years in prison. That's the penalty. There you go, thank you.
Supposedly.
Jeez.
What's that?
Supposedly.
Supposedly, yeah. If it's, yeah, that's maximum, I guess I should say. Maximum $10,000, or I think it's $10,000 and 10 years in prison is the maximum. So you'd be paying $10,000 and going to prison, which is, that'd be a pretty harsh penalty. You'd probably
Yeah, that's
maybe
harsh.
have an eagle for that kind of penalty. But I doubt if you have a little sparrow, they're gonna fine you $10,000. But they're gonna enforce that somehow. All right, we're getting into falcons now. We finished with hawks, we finished with eagles, we finished with the osprey because they're their own weird classification. And we're now into the falcons. So the biggest and probably the best falcon is the peregrine falcon, in Iowa, I should say. The biggest and the best falcon is the peregrine. They have those, I'll go all the way back. I should have put this picture on these slides. They have these very pointed M-shaped wings when they're in flight. Very distinct, very easy to tell when you're seeing them at a raptor watch station that you're seeing a peregrine falcon. A really distinct feature of the peregrine is these dark, they call them sideburns, on their face. Their face is is pretty distinct. Merlins will get this, and we'll get to the Merlin here in a little bit. They will have a little bit of a tab there, but it's not as distinct and not always present on them. They're seen during their migrations north and south in Iowa, and especially here in southern Iowa, we see them occasionally. Not this May, but the May before, when Teresa and I hosted our warbler walk. Right after Teresa had left, we had a peregrine falcon fly over us. That was pretty cool.
We were out in the open instead of.
Yeah, we moved out from under the trees, and there it goes.
We saw one when Therese was there,
Did we?
On the Cedar View Trail, when we went right down the,
Was she still there? I thought she was
she was
left.
still there,
Oh,
because
okay,
she's the one who
okay.
identified it.
That's right, that's
She's
right.
like, peregrine falcon.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God.
I thought she had
No,
left.
she hadn't left yet.
In Iowa, they will actually nest in the bluffs along the Mississippi River. They like really steep, rocky areas for nesting. There used to be a pair, and I don't know if they're still there or not. In Chillicothe at the power plant, there was a pair that nested all the way up on the big giant smokestack. And even in Des Moines, they'll nest in the tall buildings, Iowa City in the tall buildings.
Well, there was a pair that you could always see on the Burlington.
In Burlington, yeah.
But I don't think they nested there, did they?
I hadn't heard about them. I had seen a peregrine reported really early in the year in Burlington, and I went down to look for it and never found it. But I haven't heard about them nesting there recently. But yeah, they do. They like Burlington
I haven't
too.
heard about them there
Yeah.
recently either, but they used to be there.
Yeah, yeah.
Are we
So would
gonna,
it build a nest on the side of that smokestack?
I think they built it on top, so they're not going to build a nest like a swallow that'll stick to the side of it. They're going to find somewhere fairly flat to build their nest. So I don't know if they built it on the very top or if there was a little like step or notch or something.
Well, remember we saw
Park,
the
yeah.
bridge going to Burlington. There was-
Yeah, yeah.
We went out the Iowa City border.
Yeah, Burlington, anywhere along the eastern kind of face of Iowa is going to be a good spot to look, at least look for peregrines. I'm pretty sure I saw one this weekend, but it was so high up and I didn't have my binoculars. I couldn't quite tell.
Hard to,
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I've gone over there to look and
Whenever I
Yeah.
see the word, or hear of falcon, I always think, my brother went to the Air Force Academy, and that's the mascot for the Air Force,
Yeah.
or the Air Force Academy at least. And so I asked him once about that, and I think it's because they're just so fast.
Yeah, they're so fast and they're great flyers. They're a very aerial bird. The peregrine falcon at its max speed when it's diving can reach up to 200 miles an hour.
Okay, so
Which is pretty
it's the
wild.
speed.
Yeah, it's the speed. I think it's a little bit the look of them too. They're kind of, they're like an aggressive looking
Very
bird.
sleek.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, the wings are over there on the wall.
are we going to take some time as a group to go outside and look at the actual
Yeah,
birds?
we'll get out and go birding here in a little bit. I got just a couple more birds and then
Okay.
we're done with this falcon. So our smallest falcon, and this is the bird that I would argue should be our national symbol. Is the American kestrel. They're also our most beautiful, most colorful falcon that we have. Kestrels can be found in Iowa year
Colorful
round. We
is
actually have a nesting
beautiful.
pair in the park every year.
Where exactly?
Up the hill.
He
there's
said
there's
it.
a barn.
He
It's
said
on technically private
colorful
property. That's
is
where our ranger lives.
beautiful. And I agree.
But there's a nest box up there, and they nest in it every year. So, you'll see them like when you're driving along the highways. They'll be hovering. It looks like they're hovering over the medians because they can fly fast enough, or flap their wings fast enough and in the right direction where they can just sit in one spot. And what they're doing is they're searching for food. So all raptors can kind of see into the UV spectrum. And so they can see like urine marks from small rodents or snakes or anything that shows up in the UV spectrum. They might even be able to see insects that maybe their coloration goes into that UV spectrum. And so when they're flying in place, they're searching for something, and then they'll just drop right down on it. They're so fun to watch.
Yeah, they're common.
So common, yeah. The kestrels are extremely common. You'll see them perched along power
Kestrel?
lines,
I've never even
fences,
heard that word before.
all over the place in Iowa.
It's the smallest falcon.
And like I said, they nest in boxes that are maintained by people. They will nest in boxes.
falcon is a
I know for a
raptor.
while, I don't know if it's still currently going on, the Iowa DOT had partnered with the DNR, so Department of Transportation with the Department of Natural Resources, and they're actually putting kestrel boxes on the backs of road signs. So that might be why kestrels are so common in Iowa, because we had that partnership to provide nesting habitat for them.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, yeah. And all right, I'm gonna give you my pitch for why I think they should be the national bird. So the bald eagle, in my opinion, is this big bird that's super wimpy, and it's a thief, and it has a wimpy call that is often, if you see it in movies, you're hearing a red-tailed hawk, you're not hearing an eagle.
Yeah.
But the kestrel is this tiny little falcon. They're only about that big, and they will steal food from larger raptors. So if they see a red tail with a snake or whatever, a mouse or something that they're eating, these guys will actually fly up to that raptor and like kick at them and throw their wings at them until it flies away, and then they'll steal its food. So they have the American fighting spirit in them. All right.
Yeah.
We were just 13 colonies. We took
Well,
America from the British, right?
The bald eagle represents freedom, I think.
Yeah, these guys do too.
Yeah.
And these guys are prettier, way prettier. Anyway, that's my pitch for why they
Do
should.
they migrate?
The kestrel,
Yeah.
they might do like a short distance migration, where maybe in the winter we're seeing ones from the north, and ours might be going just a touch south. But you can see
I was
them
thinking
year
there
round.
was a fund that you could give to fund them in South America even, I mean, like a
Oh, yeah.
migration. But I could be wrong, I mean, there was
No,
something
no,
there was a kestrel
Yeah,
fund for a while, but you
I'm
think
sure
about-
they go. Some of them will move down south. Yeah. I can't remember the name of that. There's different types of migration, and there's one where it's essentially like a leapfrog,
Yeah.
where the ones from Canada
Here,
will move to
Florida,
here,
yeah.
and from here will move to
Yeah.
Missouri, Arkansas, and those will move even further south. Yeah. So I'm sure some of them are going down to South America. Anyway, American kestrel, beautiful bird. I love it. All right, the Merlin is going to be the most similar looking to our peregrine falcon, but they are going to be quite a bit smaller. That coloration is pretty similar though. You can see here, this one does not have that eye stripe, those sideburns. They're going to be more common in Iowa in the fall and kind of the winter time. I realized I didn't put that timing strips on these slides like I did for the shorebird. Sorry about that. They're going to be found in wooded areas and kind of along those wooded edges, more than along roadsides. So if your kestrels can occupy those wooded edges as well, but they're going to be noticeably smaller. Kestrels are just absolutely tiny birds. And this Merlin is going to be on those wooded edges and in those wooded areas more. So if you're seeing a falcon in kind of a wooded area, and it's not as brightly colored as a kestrel, and you think, oh, maybe it's a peregrine, probably not in a wooded area like that. Peregrines really like open, they tend to stay more near water. They'll hunt ducks and fish and that kind of stuff. Where the Merlin will be more woodland.
Are they fairly common around here?
Merlin?
I don't know if I've heard.
Not super common. There was Sarah at Wapello County just sent me a picture last week of a bird she wanted identified. They weren't good pictures. I had to zoom and guess, but it was a Merlin. There's been one hanging out in the Skunky Marsh for a while, which would be east of Oskaloosa. I see them occasionally at the Neff Wetlands or Lambson Woods, that kind of area. We've had them in the park. But yeah, they're not like overly common. They're not going to be as common as like the kestrel or redtail or anything like that. Okay. All right. So that's raptors. Hopefully everybody knows how to identify all the raptors now, right?
Yeah.
At least the hawks and falcons and eagles.
So what is that?
This is a rough-legged hawk. This is the only photo of a rough-legged hawk I've ever taken. It was in Wisconsin, southern Wisconsin. When I was working out there, there was rough-legged hawks and there were short-eared owls that I was going out trying to get pictures of, and I did find the rough-legged hawk.